Imagine you're in a race. You're fast, but your opponent is a slow-moving turtle. To be fair, you give the turtle a head start. Now, you start running. Logic says you should easily catch up, right? But according to an ancient philosopher named Zeno, that's not as simple as it seems. Zeno of Elea, a Greek philosopher from the 5th century BCE, came up with a series of paradoxes that challenge our understanding of motion, space, and time. One of the most famous is the Achilles and the tortoise paradox. Here's how it goes. Achilles, a great runner, gives a tortoise a small lead. When Achilles starts running, he first has to reach the spot where the tortoise began. But by the time he gets there, the tortoise has moved forward a little bit. Achilles now has to reach this new position, but by the time he does, the tortoise has moved again. No matter how fast Achilles runs, the tortoise always has a tiny head start. This keeps repeating infinitely. So, in theory, Achilles should never catch the tortoise. Now, obviously, in real life, Achilles would pass the tortoise easily. So what's going on here? Zeno wasn't actually trying to prove that Achilles could never win. He was pointing out a deeper problem. How can we fully understand motion when space and time can be divided into infinite parts? Another of Zeno's paradoxes is the dichotomy paradox. Let's say you want to walk to a door across the room. First, you have to get halfway there. Then, you have to cover half of the remaining distance. Then half again, and again. Every time you move, there's always another half to cover. In theory, you'd never actually reach the door because you'd be stuck completing an infinite number of steps. And yet, in reality, you walk across the room with no problem. These paradoxes raise a big question. How does motion actually work if it's made up of infinite tiny steps? It's like trying to count to the last number. There's always one more to go. For centuries, these paradoxes puzzled philosophers and mathematicians. Some thought they proved that motion itself was an illusion. Others believed they were just clever tricks in reasoning. It wasn't until the development of calculus in the 17th century that a solid answer emerged. Mathematicians like Isaac Newton and Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz introduced the idea of limits, showing that even though an infinite number of steps exist, their total sum can still be a finite number. In other words, even if you divide space and time infinitely, things can still move and reach their destinations. But Zeno's paradoxes didn't just disappear with calculus. They still challenge us to think about the nature of reality. Are space and time truly continuous, or are they made up of tiny, indivisible units? Even in modern physics, these questions come up when scientists study the fabric of the universe. Some theories suggest that space and time might not be infinitely divisible after all. So, what do Zeno's paradoxes really teach us? They remind us that the way we experience the world isn't always the way things actually are. Our intuition tells us motion is simple, but when you break it down, it gets surprisingly complicated. Even today, philosophers and physicists still debate the true nature of motion in space. Zeno's ideas may be over 2,000 years old, but they still make us question what we think we know. And that's the beauty of philosophy. It challenges us to look at the world in ways we never imagined.